Okay, hello students. Okay. In a last lecture for thermodynamics, we were discussing the article heat and work done. Article we have entitled on the board, in which we have studied 2 points. First, what is heat and work and how they are differentiated even though both of them are forms of energies. So, according to thermodynamics, we defined them that heat is the form of energy exchange when temperature difference is there, and work is a form of energy exchange again, but it is not due to temperature difference, due to some other reason other than temperature difference. So, when energy is exchanged by any reason other than temperature difference, then it is a work, and when energy is exchanged only due to temperature difference, then it is a heat. Next thing we studied that heat is a disordered form of energy, whereas work is a ordered, and one diagrammatic representation we have seen for it, which practically is not an illustration of actual heat and work, but which tries to make it clear that how ordered and disordered forms can be differentiated. And from that we made a conclusion that it is easy to convert ordered into disordered, but it is very hard to convert disordered into ordered form. Means it is easy to convert work into heat, but it is quite difficult to convert a heat into work. Another thing is work can be completely converted to heat by 100% efficiency, but heat can never be completely converted to work by 100% efficiency. These are the terms which we discussed in the previous lecture. Now in present lecture we are going to discuss sign conventions for heat and work done given by IUPAC. The union which decides various rules for nomenclature of organic compounds, most of terms in organic chemistry, then sign conventions in a physical chemistry, rules for writing a particular formulas in physical chemistry, then symbolic notations for a physical properties in a physical chemistry. This whole work done is done through a IUPAC, which is a branch which is related with the norms, or we can say symbolic representation and related norms in the chemistry. Okay. IUPAC made certain rules, and these rules are in regardance of signs of work and heat that we are going to look. If we consider that a system is a box on which work can be done or which can perform work on surrounding also. Okay. So, this one is our reference system, and this remaining portion is a surrounding. Okay. This one is a surrounding around it. Entire region, whole universe other than system is a surrounding. If heat is absorbed by system, let us denote that one by arrow which is inward into the system, and it has a sign convention of plus Q. This means heat gained by system, and if heat is lost by system, then it is represented as a minus Q, which stand for heat loss. So, whenever heat is absorbed by system, then magnitude of heat is given with the positive sign, and when heat is released by system, then the magnitude of heat is given with the negative sign. Clear? Likewise, whenever work is done by system on surrounding, This type of work is a work of expansion done by system on surrounding, and this sort of work done is given with a negative sign. We would see the terms again in the expression for a work done, but first we need to make it clear that what should be their sign conventions. So, whenever work is done by system on surrounding, means whenever work of expansion is done by any system, then work of expansion is always given with the negative sign. On converse, when work is done by surrounding on system, this is the work of compression, and work of compression is conventionally given as plus W. Sign of work done is a plus W minute. So, these are IUPAC conventions which we would clear here as work expansion is negative, work of compression is positive, heat gain is positive, and heat loss is negative. Okay. Work of expansion, compression, gain and loss. These are the signs of them according to IUPAC conventions. Okay. Now, next to this, we will move to the term which is related to heat as a heat capacity, then specific heat and then the molar heat capacities. In a heat section, heat capacity is a common term. It is denoted as a capital C. Now, literally, heat capacity is defined as it is the amount of heat given to given mass of object to increase its temperature by 1 degree Celsius. Amount of heat given to given weight of substance to increase its temperature by 1 degree Celsius is called as heat capacity. This is called heat capacity. So, when we try to set a mathematical equation for it, it is the quantity of heat given to increase the temperature by 1 degree Celsius, irrespective of mass of that object. What the mass is, that is not related. Whatever mass is given, we have to increase its temperature from present value to the 1 degree Celsius greater value, and the quantity of heat required for that rise in temperature is called as heat capacity. So, conventionally it is Q divided by delta T. If we set a unit for it, then heat is a form of energy expressed in joule and delta T is a temperature difference which is given in kelvins. So, joule per Kelvin it is unit of heat capacity. Next is a specific heat. Specific heat and heat differs in two manners. First is specific heat is the quantity of heat given to 1 gram of substance, not to the given mass of substance, to 1 gram of substance to increase its temperature by 1 degree Celsius. That is called specific heat. Amount of heat given to 1 gram of substance to increase its temperature by 1 degree Celsius is called as specific heat. and this is conventionally given by equation Cs is equal to quantity of heat given divided by weight of substance in a grams multiplied by change in temperature. Now here we relate with what is the weight of the given substances. So this is mass independent, this one is mass dependent. So as a convention, heat capacity, because it is depend on amount of matter, is an extensive property, and specific heat, because it is defined for 1 gram, whatever mass is given we need to define it for 1 gram of substance. So it is mass independent and therefore it is a intensive property. Clear? If we try to set a unit for a specific heat Cs, then it can be taken as joules for heat, then per Kelvin for temperature, per gram. Joules per kelvins per gram, unit of specific heat it is. Now one more interrelated term is molar heat capacity. Now what probably can be molar heat capacity? Simple it is. It is again a amount of heat given to 1 mole of substance to increase or change temperature by 1 degree Celsius. Amount of heat given to 1 mole of given substance to increase its temperature by 1 degree Celsius is called as molar heat capacity, and that is conventionally given as Cm is equal to quantity of heat given Q divided by number of moles of substance whatever given multiplied by change in a temperature delta T. And if we set unit for here, then it will be joules per Kelvin per mole, which is actually unit of a gas constant in a SI form, joules per kelvins per mole. Getting it? So from here we get the interrelation that Cp minus Cv is equal to R, because Cp and Cv are the forms of molar heat capacities at constant pressure and constant volume, and in that cases it has a unit joule per Kelvin per mole, which is exactly equal to unit of R. So this difference can be taken as a gas constant R. It has a different mathematical proof. Here we are clearing that units of all 3 quantities are same, because first 2 quantities are molar heat capacities. It is not like that it has a unit like R, so difference can be taken as R. It is not so. All 3 has the same unit. That is our point of discussion. Clear? Okay. Now we have seen a different types of processes: isothermal, isobaric, isochoric, adiabatic. Numerous types of processes are there. Cyclic, then reversible and irreversible. Total 7 types we discussed. If we try to define molar heat capacity for different processes, we would have a different conclusions. Molar Cm for various processes. Okay. 2 of important conclusions are there. We should memorize them and then we will move to the next part. Cm mathematically given as molar heat capacity, mathematically given as Q divided by number of moles of material into change in a temperature delta T. Q divided by N into dt. That is called as molar heat capacity. Now this equation is applied for isothermal process. Now in a isothermal process, what will be molar heat molar heat capacity of the object for the matter which is under isothermal change? What is its molar heat capacity? For isothermal process, we have a conclusion delta T is equal to 0, and if we place this delta T equal to 0 in above equation, then its molar heat capacity becomes infinite. Memorize it. Better is to memorize it. Molar heat capacity of a matter or object in isothermal change is infinite, because the matter or object which is in a isothermal progress, we can't increase its temperature by providing infinite heat, because that is in isothermal form. It maintains its temperature constant. It will not allow temperature to increase by 0.1 degree Celsius. Our objective is to increase by 1 degree Celsius. That is never going to be achieved. So whenever a matter is under a isothermal progress, whatever quantity of heat is given to that matter, temperature will never change. That implies its heat capacity is infinite. Clear? Next, we would relate with adiabatic. आपण दोन changes skip केले, isobaric and isochoric. Why we would see them? Now for adiabatic process, we have a clear convention that heat exchanged is a 0. If a matter is in an adiabatic progress, then it means the matter is in an isolated system, and to an isolated system we can't provide the heat to change its temperature. In fact, the matter which is in an adiabatic change, that has a characteristics that its temperature can be changed. जो मॅटर ॲडियाबॅटिक प्रोग्रेसमध्ये आहे त्याचं टेम्परेचर बदलू शकतं, पण ते त्याच्या इंटरनल हीटमुळं बदलेल. बाहेरून दिलेली हीट तो ॲक्सेप्ट करत नाही, किंवा आतून रिलीज झालेली हीट तो बाहेर सराउंडिंगला हँडओव्हर करत नाही. म्हणजे क्यू एक्सचेंजच केला नाही जाऊ शकत, तर CM ही व्हॅल्यू 0 होतो. If we place Q equal to 0, then magnitude of CM will become 0. A clear convention it is. So in isothermal change, molar heat capacity is infinite. In an adiabatic change, molar heat capacity is 0. One more type of process we would discuss, cyclic change. For a cyclic process, in fact, change in all state function is 0, which clearly means delta T is also 0. In fact, delta V is also 0. So when delta T is 0, it is like isothermal. So its a molar heat capacity again infinite. A question might be asked, for which of the given processes heat capacity is infinity? कुठल्या प्रोसेससाठी हीट कॅपॅसिटी इन्फिनिटी असू शकते? The options should be either isothermal or cyclic. In these two cases, molar heat capacity has a magnitude of infinity. In adiabatic, it is 0. Now when we move to isochoric and isobaric, these are the processes which are conducted at constant pressure and constant volume. And at constant pressure means in isobaric process, molar heat capacity is a non-zero given as Cp, and at a constant volume this is isobaric, and constant volume for isochoric. In isochoric change, molar heat capacity given as Cv. So these two are non-zero values having a definite magnitude which can be measured, and these are the terminal values with a clear conclusion that either they are 0 or they are infinite. So term molar heat capacity is a measurable in, this type of a question might be asked, that molar heat capacity is a significant term in which type of process. When it is asked like a significant term, that simply means which is measurable, where we can calculate, where we would have different magnitudes of it, what type of process it should be, then the option should be either isobaric or isochoric. These cases has some meaning for their molar heat capacity values. Here on, the molar heat capacities are either 0 or infinite. Clear? Okay then. So this whole was in relation to the first segment, heat, which we started in the article heat and work done. Okay. Now the next thing we are going to discuss is the work. Work we defined in a thermodynamic manner that work is an exchange of energy which is due to any reason other than a temperature difference. Physically, work is given as work is a product of force and displacement. In a thermodynamics, we would study the work done, which is commonly called as work done of PV type, pressure volume type, and this type of work is always done at constant external pressure. So the equation that we are going to obtain is the PV type of work done at constant external pressure. Okay. Now let us assume again a similar thermodynamic system we have, in which a cylindrical container is provided with a movable piston. Okay. Now this piston is experiencing something force. This disc of a piston has an area of capital A. This is a force exerted by piston. So let us call F external, and this one is the force which is exerted by gas in an upward direction, which is called force due to gas, F gaseous, not needed to mention it. V is the volume of the container, V is the volume, and if we increase the pressure, then it will move to the distance of a lower side, here somewhere. This is the new position of the piston, which will be attained when force is exerted on it. So this corresponding volume is V1, latter is V2, okay. V1 to V2, and this displacement produced is a D. Okay. Now let us try to get what is work done and why it is negative in a thermodynamics. When F is the force applied on a cross sectional area of A, then this piston moves through the distance of a D. Then we can say work done, work which is driving force into displacement, can be taken as driving force is what? It is pressure, force external into displacement D. Okay. One thing we need to make it clear, that here whatever the compression of gas is done from V1 to V2, that compression is done by applied force, and that applied force was a P external force which start to compress that gas. In fact, if we assume that this volume is changed from V1 to new volume V2, a force is applied in an upward direction, then this force would have been driving force equal to force exerted by gas. Getting it? So conventionally what we are trying to explain here is the driving force in either of cases, in a compression or expansion, once it will be pressure or a force exerted by gas particle, in other case it would be the force exerted by piston material. But in fact we consider pressure exerted by matter inside the system, that is the driving force always, and pressure exerted by mechanical apparatus or assembly around that matter, that is the external. So F gaseous, the force exerted by gas, this is our driving force, and F external, the force exerted by piston in a downward direction, that is our opposing force. Whatever the change is, let it be expansion or compression in either of two cases. Clear? Now next thing, when we have expression for work done, then work is force into displacement. If we write expression for pressure of gas, then it can be given as force exerted by gaseous particle divided by area of a piston, which is capital A. Force per unit area but is equal to pressure of gas. So force of a gas, this can be given as pressure of a gas into area of a piston. Clear? Now we would place this value herein. So work done is equal to F gaseous means pressure of gas into capital A, which is area, into the displacement D. Now this cross sectional area A into this displacement D, area into D, this is actually what? This is equal to this difference in a volume between V1 and V2. So area into displacement is nothing but a final volume minus initial volume, which can be taken as a delta V, and therefore the work done can be written as pressure of a gas into delta V. Now we are very close to our required equation. Now pressure of gas is our driving force, and we know that for equilibrium, driving force is equal to opposing force, but driving and opposing forces are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So being a vector quantities, we can say driving force is equal to minus of opposing force, which simply means pressure of gas is equals to minus of P external. And if we place herein, then equation for work will become minus of P external into delta V, which is more correctly taken as minus of P external into V2 minus V1, and this is our primary expression for work at constant P external. Clear? So in present lecture we will stop at this particle. We have set equation for PV type of work done in a specific case when external pressure is assumed to be constant. Now important thing is, entire derivation for a work done is derived in the form of a driving force, and at the last stage we used a convention that driving force is exactly equal to opposing force, but it is opposite in direction, and on that basis we replaced pressure of gas by minus of P external, and then we obtained expression for work done, W equal to minus P external into V2 minus V1. Clear with it? So at constant pressure, this is equation for work done we have. Now some more conclusions are there depending on different types of processes that we will continue in the upcoming lecture. In present we will stop here.